Welcome. In this session, we're going to talk about building a supplement stack that actually works for you. I know it can be tempting to grab whatever colorful tub is on sale and assume you're covered, but most pre-workouts underdose key ingredients and rely heavily on caffeine. I'm here to show you how to get the most out of what you take by understanding what each component does and how to layer them. We'll discuss energy boosters, pump enhancers, strength and performance aids, and recovery support. By the end, you'll know how to fill gaps, avoid overlapping stimulants, and tailor your stack to your goals and physiology. Now that you know why this topic matters, let's dive into why stacking supplements can be a game changer. When you build a thoughtful supplement stack, you're not just adding more powders to your shelf, you're strategically supporting the physiological pathways that drive performance and recovery. Effective stacks can enhance mental focus, increase blood flow for a better pump, improve strength and endurance, and speed up repair after training. Many off-the-shelf products skimp on clinically supported doses, so you end up with lots of ingredients at levels too low to be effective. Stacking lets you hit those targets without doubling up on stimulants. It also allows you to adjust based on your tolerance and specific goals. In short, stacking done well magnifies benefits and minimizes downsides. Let's look at some common mistakes people make when they try to build a stack. Before you start layering products, it's important to avoid some common pitfalls. The first is blindly trusting proprietary blends. These hide individual dosages, making it impossible to know if you're getting enough active ingredient. Another issue is doubling up on caffeine when using multiple products. A pre-workout, fat burner, and energy drink can easily push you beyond safe limits. Many people also neglect foundational compounds like creatine or citrulline, assuming they're covered when the label says pump blend. Finally, ignoring your own tolerance and health conditions can lead to side effects like jitters or blood pressure issues. Being aware of these problems sets the stage for building a balanced stack. Next, let's organize our thinking around 4 key pillars. To create an effective supplement plan, it helps to think in terms of 4 pillars: energy, pump, strength, and recovery. The energy pillar covers compounds that stimulate your central nervous system and sharpen your focus so you feel ready to attack your session. The pump pillar focuses on increasing blood flow and cellular hydration, giving you that satisfying swell and potentially supporting nutrient delivery. The strength pillar addresses ingredients that improve force production and muscular endurance, helping you lift more weight or complete more reps. Finally, the recovery pillar supports muscle repair, reduces inflammation, and balances hormones so you can bounce back quickly. With these pillars in mind, we can now examine the ingredients that fall into each category. Starting with energy. When it comes to energy, caffeine is the most researched and widely used stimulant. A dose of roughly 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight taken about 30 to 60 minutes before training can improve alertness and power output. Keep in mind that the FDA recommends staying under 400 milligrams of caffeine per day from all sources. L-tyrosine is an amino acid that may support neurotransmitter production during stressful conditions. Evidence for performance is limited, so doses of 2 to 5 grams are conservative. Other stimulants like synephrine and yohimbine can increase adrenaline but come with greater risk, so monitor your response carefully. Pairing caffeine with L-theanine can smooth out jitters and prolong focus. After we cover energy, we'll move on to ingredients that enhance your pump. A great pump isn't just for vanity. Increasing blood flow can help deliver nutrients and oxygen to working muscles. Citrulline malate is one of the most popular pump ingredients. 6 to 8 grams taken 30 to 60 minutes pre-workout supports nitric oxide production, though studies on endurance show mixed results. Nitrate-rich beetroot juice provides 400 to 500 milligrams of nitrate 2 to 3 hours before exercise, and has been shown to improve blood flow. Glycerol at 1 to 2 grams increases cellular hydration and can enhance endurance, but it demands adequate water intake or you risk gastrointestinal distress. Sodium and electrolytes support vasodilation and hydration during high-volume training. With pumps covered, let's explore ingredients that directly boost strength and performance. Strength and endurance performance rely on saturating certain energy systems. Creatine monohydrate is the gold standard. 3 to 5 grams daily saturates your muscles with phosphocreatine, providing quick ATP regeneration. Loading phases are optional. Consistency matters more. Beta-alanine helps buffer muscle acidity during high rep or endurance work. Doses of 4 to 6.4 grams per day, split into 2 or 3 servings, are typical to minimize skin tingling. Betaine at around 2.5 grams per day may increase power output, though results are mixed. Finally, carbohydrates are sometimes overlooked in discussions of supplements. 15 to 30 grams of fast-digesting carbs before high-volume or fasted sessions can enhance performance. After performance, we need to plan for what happens after training. Recovery. Recovery is where the gains actually happen, so supporting this phase is essential. Protein should be prioritized both post-workout and throughout the day. 20 to 40 grams after training with 2 to 3 grams of leucine triggers, muscle protein synthesis, and total daily intake of about 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight supports growth and repair. Creatine continues to play a role here by replenishing ATP. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, at 2 to 3 grams per day can reduce inflammation and support joint health. Sleep is often ignored, but crucial. Aim for 7 to 9 hours per night. Minerals like magnesium and zinc may aid relaxation and hormone regulation when dietary intake is lacking. Now that we know our pillars, we can identify gaps in our current pre-workout routine. To make sure your pre-workout is doing its job, compare the ingredient label to the clinical dose ranges we've discussed. If citrulline is listed at less than 6 grams, consider adding a separate pure citrulline supplement. If there's no creatine at all, take 3 to 5 grams per day on your own. For beta-alanine, anything under 3 grams probably isn't enough to boost carnosine levels. You can split additional doses later in the day to avoid tingling. Checking labels against evidence-based ranges empowers you to decide which single-ingredient products to add and which formulas are fluff. To visualize this, it's helpful to create a comparison table, which we'll talk about next. A practical exercise is to make a table comparing the amounts in proprietary blends to clinically effective doses. List the common ingredients: caffeine, citrulline, beta-alanine, creatine, and write down what your pre-workout provides versus what research supports. Often you'll find that proprietary blends lump several components into a single number, leaving each ingredient severely underdosed. This visual tool makes it clear where to add single ingredient supplements and where to avoid overlap. The goal isn't to micromanage every milligram, but to ensure you're hitting minimum effective doses without exceeding safe limits. With that data in hand, you can begin stacking intelligently. Let's walk through some smart stacking strategies, starting with combining stimulants and pump enhancers. One simple way to maximize your pre-workout is to pair a stimulant-heavy formula with a pump-only product. This allows you to reach clinical doses of citrulline or nitrates without doubling up on caffeine or synephrine. For example, if your Stim product already contains 300 milligrams of caffeine, avoid adding another scoop of a pump blend that also lists stimulants. Instead, choose a pure pump formula and monitor your total stimulant intake for the day, keeping it under about 400 milligrams. Also remember that pump ingredients work best when you're properly hydrated. Drink water and include electrolytes to support vasodilation. After pairing stims with pumps, you can think about how creatine fits into your stack. Creatine is more like a daily nutrient than a pre-workout booster, so the simplest strategy is to take 3 to 5 grams at any convenient time each day. You don't need to include it in your pre-workout shake to benefit, and separating it can reduce gastrointestinal discomfort when combined with large doses of caffeine. Loading phases 20 grams per day for a week can speed saturation but aren't required. If you prefer creatine in capsule form or another variant, that's fine, but creatine monohydrate remains the most cost-effective and well-studied option. Incorporating creatine consistently supports both power output and recovery. Let's move on to managing high-stim formulas and all your caffeine sources. When using high-stim pre-workouts, it's crucial to track your total caffeine and similar compounds from all sources. Aim to keep your daily intake around 400 milligrams or less, including coffee, energy drinks, fat burners, and pre-workouts. Consider cycling stimulants, 2 to 4 weeks on followed by a week off, to reset your tolerance and adrenals. Start with the lower end of recommended doses and gradually titrate up based on how you feel rather than jumping to the maximum. Monitoring how you respond, including heart rate, sleep quality, and mood, helps you avoid overstimulation. Once you have high stim stacks under control, you can add intra-workout support for longer sessions, for training sessions lasting more than an hour, or when training in a fasted state. Intra-workout nutrition can make a big difference. Consuming 15 to 45 grams of easily digestible carbohydrates per hour helps maintain blood glucose and sustain performance. Essential amino acids or branched-chain amino acids at 6 to 10 grams may reduce muscle breakdown and soreness, especially if you haven't eaten a full meal recently. Be mindful not to stack multiple amino blends on top of a diet that already meets your protein needs. It can become redundant and expensive. Also pay attention to how your stomach responds to sugars and amino acids while moving. With proper fueling established, let's discuss how to avoid other stacking mistakes. There are a few guidelines to keep you from sabotaging yourself. First, avoid double dosing stimulants. Don't combine a high caffeine pre-workout with another product that contains synephrine or yohimbine unless you understand the risks. Second, space out beta-alanine doses to minimize the tingling sensation. Splitting your daily intake across 2 or 3 servings works well. Third, be cautious about stacking multiple vasodilators like high citrulline and nitrates when it's very hot or you're dehydrated, as this can lead to dizziness. Finally, review any medications and health conditions with a professional before adding unfamiliar ingredients, as some compounds can interact with blood pressure or blood sugar medicines. Having covered the pitfalls, let's see what a well-designed beginner stack might look like. If you're new to supplements, start with the basics. For energy, a moderate caffeine dose around 3 mg per kilogram should be sufficient for most beginners. If you find the stimulation too strong, pairing caffeine with a small amount of L-theanine can provide smoother focus. For pump, pure citrulline at 6 grams is plenty. A beetroot juice shot can be used occasionally for variety. For strength, creatine monohydrate at 3 to 5 grams per day is all you need, and beta-alanine is optional if you're doing lots of high-rep work. For recovery, aim for about 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, spread throughout the day, and include an omega-3 supplement with around 2 grams of EPA and DHA. As you gain experience, you can adjust these amounts. Now let's see how an intermediate lifter might build on this foundation. As you progress and your training intensifies, your supplement needs may shift slightly. On the energy front, you might bump your caffeine to 4 or 5 milligrams per kilogram and add L-theanine at around 200 milligrams to maintain smooth focus. For pump, you could increase citrulline to 8 grams and add glycerol at about 1 gram for extracellular hydration, along with a balanced electrolyte drink. Strength ingredients remain steady. Creatine at 5 grams per day, and beta-alanine in the 4 to 6 grams range, split throughout the day. Recovery also increases. Aim for 1.8 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram per day. Maintain omega-3 intake and consider adding 200 milligrams of magnesium if your diet lacks it. For advanced competitors, the stack evolves further. A strength athlete needs robust support across all 4 pillars. For energy, caffeine can range between 3 and 6 milligrams per kilogram depending on body weight and session intensity, and some may cautiously experiment with synephrine at around 20 milligrams. Pump ingredients include nitrates at about 400 milligrams, glycerol at 2 grams, and a sodium-rich drink to maintain plasma volume. Strength supplements stay consistent. Creatine at 5 grams daily, beta-alanine at 6.4 grams, and betaine at roughly 2.5 grams to potentially improve power. Recovery demands are high. Consume about 2 grams of protein per kilogram, include omega-3s, and ensure adequate vitamin D3 intake at around 2,000 international units if you don't get much sunlight. Once in a while, you might deploy a high-stim stack. Let's outline how to handle that safely. Occasionally using a high-stim stack can help you push through a particularly tough training day, but it should be infrequent. An example might be 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram, paired with 200 milligrams of L-theanine to blunt the edginess, but only once or twice per week. Keep pump ingredients moderate. 6 grams of citrulline and 400 milligrams of nitrates are sufficient, and avoid adding extra stimulants like yohimbine. Your strength ingredients remain steady. 5 grams of creatine daily and 4 grams of beta-alanine. For recovery, maintain 2 grams of protein per kilogram. Emphasize hydration with electrolytes and aim for 8 hours of sleep to compensate for the extra stimulus. With examples covered, we'll summarize how to ensure your stack is complete and tailored to you. Before finalizing your plan, run through a simple checklist. Make sure you've addressed each of the 4 pillars: energy, pump, strength, and recovery. Compare your product labels to clinical doses and fill any gaps with single ingredient supplements rather than doubling up on whole formulas. Keep an eye on total stimulant intake and avoid stacking multiple vasodilators without reason. Remember that your training style, goals, and tolerance determine the optimal doses, so adjust accordingly. And never lose sight of foundational factors like progressive overload, nutrition, and sleep, which drive most of your progress. Having a checklist ensures you're being methodical rather than haphazard. To wrap up, let's review the key takeaways from this session. To conclude, building an effective supplement stack isn't about chasing the latest shiny ingredient. It's about aligning evidence-based doses with your specific needs. By focusing on the 4 pillars of energy, pump, strength, and recovery, you can enhance your workouts and accelerate recovery without risking overstimulation or wasted money. Remember that underdosing is common, so verify the amounts on your labels and don't be afraid to add single ingredient products like creatine or citrulline. Foundational supplements like creatine and protein are powerful when taken consistently, and stimulants work best when used judiciously. Above all, personalize your stack, listen to your body, and maintain consistency in training, diet, and sleep. That's the path to sustainable progress.